What's up, adventure buddies? So recently we just posted our first international travel since COVID, and so because of that we've been flooded with a ton of questions from you guys. So we're going to take some of our frequently asked questions around international travel during COVID and put it together in this week's video. Here we go.
Do you need to take a COVID-19 test prior to departing the US?
So to answer that question, it typically depends on the location in which you're going. So we urge you to do a little bit of research before going on your travels. And so nowadays, you typically see most countries are now requiring a COVID-19 test. And if they are requiring that, you typically have a 72-hour window in which to take that test prior to your departure.
If I have to take a COVID test to get back into the US, where do I do that?
So let's back up a little bit. As of January 26, 2021, the US has now mandated that in order to come back into the United States, whether you're a domestic citizen or a foreigner, you are required to have a negative COVID test. And so where do you get that? Typically in our experiences, the hotels and our resorts are generally really good about having on-site COVID-19 testing. And if they do, we urge you to pay special attention to when those results will be delivered. That will then dictate when you need to take that test. Because again, similar to leaving the United States, in order to come back, that window is 72 hours prior to your departure.
Where do I show the COVID results?
So these COVID results are generally passed on to the airline's responsibilities. And so what I mean by that, when you go up to the airline to check in, before getting your ticket, you generally have to present your COVID-19 test results. And so that can either be electronically or a physical piece of paper. Pro tip here, I urge you to keep that document handy throughout your entire trip. Why? Because not only do the airlines require it, you may also encounter some actual excursions that would ask you for proof of a negative result as well.
Is there any other documentation needed besides the COVID-19 test results?
So similar to the COVID-19 test results, this is generally depending on the location that you're going. And this is actually true whether you're flying domestic or internationally. Some states and or countries actually have you fill out a health survey form to make sure that you're not showing any symptoms of COVID-19. And so that can be upon your actual arrival. So sometimes the state and or country will require it. And or we've actually seen it where you've had to fill out daily questionnaires sent to you by email and you're expected to respond within 24 hours. So again, encourage you to do your research ahead of time to make sure that you have all the proper documentation needed to stay safe.
What COVID protocols have you seen with air travel?
So similar to everything else we've seen during this pandemic, airlines and airports require the same. You have to wear a mask and you have to social distance. So what other protocols have you seen? Well, they are sanitizing everything. For example, when you get onto the plane, they now give you your own sanitizing wipes so that you can ensure that you clean your own area from head to toe. Because again, if you follow passenger shaming on Instagram, then you know how disgusting those airline seats are, pre or post pandemic. So again, these airports are taking a ton of precautions to make sure that you're safe. Some of the other things that they've done is they've eliminated the middle seat, but that was a couple months ago. So right now, as you're following along in the news, those middle seats are actually coming back into play. As you'll see, the airports and airlines are starting to add back capacity. So again, do a bit of research and match that up with your level of concern during this pandemic.
Besides a mask, what other things can you do to keep yourself safe while traveling?
So there's plenty of other things you can do to keep yourself safe. For instance, along with a mask, you can double mask it, or you can actually wear a face shield, which is something that we've used recently and actually may continue to use that going on post-pandemic. Other things we suggest you bring is hand sanitizer, your own wipes, maybe a travel thermometer. You could bring rubber gloves, as well as whatever other precautions that you may feel necessary to make sure that you feel safe during the entire travel, because it is important that you and your family feel safe throughout the entire trip.
Are other countries that we've been to taking COVID as seriously as the United States?
So again, I'm not an expert, so I can't say every country is the same, but the few countries that we visited, we've actually felt that they are taking this COVID pandemic extremely serious. Some so more than the United States in some regards. So what do I mean by that? So for instance, we were in Cancun, as our recent video showed. Here, we basically showered in sanitizer. We had to sanitize our hands at every corner we went. We had to put our feet in sanitizer baths. We had to get our backpack sprayed down before entering into the transportation. And we were getting our temperature checked every step of the way. It was almost annoying, but again, that was here to keep us safe. So why are these countries doing this? Because a lot of these countries that we're traveling to find their primary source of income through tourism. And so how can they continue to generate income? Well, they need to make us as tourists feel safe coming back in there. The other way they've done this is by reducing capacity in the resorts and or excursion. So that way that they can ensure that there is proper distancing throughout the entire stay. And so it actually has been kind of enjoyable having hotels at 25%. Nobody's there and everybody loves a great time without a crowd.
Can you get a refund or change your ticket due to COVID?
So yes and no. Both, it depends on the airline and it also depends on the time in which you're watching this video. So currently, most airlines are continuing to offer their no change fee policies, which allows you to cancel and or modify your flight at any point in time. So I can't guarantee that's going to last. So I urge you to take advantage of it while you can, especially by purchasing ahead of time and locking in some of those no change fees, because those are actually pretty convenient, COVID or not, because life happens. It gives us the ability to modify our trip to our ever-changing schedule.
Where can I find all info related to this?
So there's plenty of different resources you can go out there, but typically what I would do is start with the CDC website. This has a ton of information and a ton of hyperlinks to get you the utmost data, particularly here in the US. What I then urge you to do is to Google the location which you're going. Typically their government site will have a link to their COVID protocols. Along with the hotel or resort that you're staying at, they typically have a whole page dedicated to their website dictating their COVID practices and policies to make sure that you as the tourist or the consumer feel safe throughout the entire trip. So again, this will take a little bit more extra time on us as travelers to ensure that we're being safe, but again, we're doing this to be safe and to get back to doing what we love, and that's traveling.
So there you have it. A few FAQs about COVID and travel. We hope it provided you with some good information so you can get back out there.
And again, guys, this is all about your own personal safety, so take this for what you will. So we are not experts in the realm of COVID, so again, we urge you to do your own research and make your own decisions on how you should or shouldn't travel during COVID-19. And so remember, life's an adventure.
Who are you going on it with?